Beautiful.
And we're live.
Nice, man.
Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday.
It's the Lord's Day.
The Lord's Day, man.
What's new?
I don't know, man. Well, let's talk this entrepreneurship stuff, right?
Okay.
That's the first note on my notepad here.
Okay.
I've been thinking about that. I don't know if you remember, I told you my idea where you could go to community associations
Yeah.
and ask them whether they'd be interested in a service where you pick up garbage in their community.
Yeah.
And charge however much for the community association to do that. But I was thinking, like, the logistics of that, it'd probably be good to start with a survey, right? Like, if you just phone or email a variety of community associations throughout the city and see if that's even something they would be interested in first.
Can you just reach out to community associations?
I imagine you can. I mean, I know the one in my neighborhood has, like, an email that you can email them, right?
But how do you find that information?
I don't know. I was just Googling up Toronto community associations and figured I'd just sort of scout around and look for it. You know what I mean? But
Oh yeah, there. The Federation of Urban Neighborhoods, Communities, Count, Civic Matters.
yeah. I don't know if they already have something like that, though. I haven't really looked into what kind of competition there might be for a service like that. I just know I've never seen it. And, like, walking around St. Catharines, there's always so much garbage everywhere,
Yeah.
right? Just on the road. So it might be something we could actually make money doing.
City, Saint.
I don't know if they have community associations in St. Catharines.
Why, you're too trashy?
I wasn't going to say that. But
Is that the implication?
that's the implication. No, it's because it's a lot of just like uni students,
Oh,
right? So there's a lot of people coming and going.
you're right. It looks like they don't have any associations, at least on this.
You'd have to maybe do Niagara region.
You'd have to go to the community center. I don't know
Yeah.
why. I think you have to go there.
I don't know. I guess community centers are set up by the government, but I don't think they have anything to do with community associations.
There's not even anything for Niagara region.
Wow, that's kind of
But
interesting.
maybe that's just one website, right?
Yeah.
Niagara region.
My entrepreneurship professor was saying that it's like only 3 or 4 families that basically control all of the Niagara region.
Or probably Mike's family,
Yeah.
because he's like makes wine.
Yeah, but like all of like the touristy area,
Uh-huh.
essentially if you want to open up something down there, you got to get investment capital from them.
Why can't you get a cat? But
Because
you.
they own like all of the buildings down there essentially.
I see.
Yeah. Which I don't know if that's accurate or not, but I thought that was kind of crazy. I didn't think that's something that like you read in like some fantasy book how this city is just the 3 families controlling, you know what I mean? Like,
So what was
real
the
life, bro.
implication? Like you could get capital from somewhere else.
You could do it if you wanted to. The problem is that if you're trying to rent out space, they got all the space.
They got all the
They
space.
own all the places, and it would be like essentially it's like you don't have to go with them, but it makes it way easier because they've got a lot of experience in the area
Yeah.
and knowledge around the communities and stuff like
So
that.
who are these families?
I have no idea. I tried looking it up, and ChatGPT said nothing.
Who's the St. Catharines Mafia,
Yeah,
ChatGPT?
the St. Cat's Mafia.
I bet you
Who's
can
the
find them
mob?
pretty easily. Like there's a lot of the like, they have those, what are they called? Even with the school, they have those things you can
Oh,
go.
incubators.
Yeah,
Yeah.
incubators.
I'd be curious to see, like, because you can't be a part of it if you're not, like, currently studying.
No,
So
that's
as
not
soon as
true.
it is true.
Maybe
The
the ones
ones-
for the
The
school.
ones from the school.
Yeah,
It's the ones
alright.
outside of the school that you can be a part of.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you gotta pay or something to be a part of those. Like, how would an incubator outside of the school be willing to just give free resources to you? You know what I mean?
I think like there's also like, it's not like free resources. There's also people who want to invest in things. Like they're
Yeah,
also
that's
getting
true.
stuff.
That's true. That's true.
Like obviously, I don't know if they host an event somewhere. You might have to pay to attend an event,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's like $3,000. Probably like $50, like $25.
But that would be more of a networking event as opposed to an incubator. Because incubators, like, they actually help you design and launch and market. You know what I mean? It's more involved than a networking event.
What's that sound?
Yeah, it sounds like somebody's, like, on the other side of this door or something.
It's the St. Catharines Mafia.
Oh, Oh, it's just a door.
Innovate Niagara. Welcome to Innovate
Yeah, that's the
Niagara.
one. That's the one they're always talking about in my class.
Become a client. Let's do it. You have to sign up. Tell us about your company. Are you or your co-founders 29 years or younger? Types of financing used to date, venture capital, private investors. Yeah, you just joined this.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe, yeah, maybe we could look into that more. I don't know if you've got any. You're still going to be studying, so I don't know if you've got any ideas you're going to try to launch right now or not. But
There's some things I'm working on, but I don't need a lot of capital for them.
Yeah.
I wonder what happens if you're above the age of 29.
I don't know.
They just don't give a fuck about you anymore.
Well, maybe they don't give you capital.
What if you have a big idea? You need capital. That's not. I mean, you know.
I know, but what else could they like? What would they withhold from you?
I mean, they have experience, no? Ideally.
I know, but like for example, the guy in my class who's like in his 40s,
Yeah.
he's part of Innovate and the incubator.
Yeah.
But he's in his 40s, and he doesn't have any experience. He's got experience with the trade he's in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But in terms of business experience, he doesn't have that.
Yeah.
So you would still benefit from it regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
He'd still benefit, definitely.
Maybe it's just because they've got a limited number of slots.
So if you're above 29, they're like, yeah,
If you're
no.
above, well, maybe it's not that they say no, whatever. It's just that you got to wait longer.
Maybe.
Maybe they got a wait list and you get pushed to the end of it if you're over 29.
Lame. You're 29. Your life's over now.
Game over.
Yeah. Game over. Oh, here, a summer company program offers memberships. This is something, provides students aged 15 to 29. Here's the 29 again. Like, there must be something about this number.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, man.
Do.
What do you got on your list of things to talk about here?
What's your next thing? What's this?
My next thing, I just said investing.
Okay.
But I meant that's more just broad, like the Get Money podcast. You talk about investing.
What stocks are you looking at? Are you looking at any stocks? I need to start looking at stocks.
Not right now, really. Well, I was talking about cybersecurity.
Yeah.
And I looked at the Palo Alto annual report, and it seemed like they were just. I maybe told you about this before, but when I was reading the report, it spent like 2/3 of the report just trying to justify the CEO's pay increase.
Is that the annual report?
The annual report, yeah.
That's
They seem to spend a really, really long period of time and a large amount of the report just trying to justify pay increases.
How long? How many pages was the annual report?
It was a couple hundred pages.
Yeah, well,
Right.
That's kind of standard.
To spend a third of.
Well, they spend time talking about like they spend pages. I had to look at the annual report for this company I'm doing for assurance. They're doing uranium mining, Delson, and they spent like pages on like nothing. Like yeah. Like I could easily see them spending a few pages.
I know, but it struck me as like, okay, if they're spending this much to talk about this, what are they not talking about? Like it just made me think like this is management that maybe they're doing well right now, but I wouldn't trust them, right? Because you're going to spend that much time trying to convince people that you need to get a pay increase when there's other things they could be talking about, right?
So the concern is that like the pay, and they were self-conscious about the pay increase because it's not justified.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just comparing them to annual reports that I've read that seem like well written by ethical people, right?
This is
but
just
it didn't seem ethical. Like it seemed shady. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not necessarily unethical. It just seemed very shady.
Who did their audit?
I don't know.
It's in the annual report.
I didn't read that part.
Oh.
I started from the beginning and just was reading it in between shifts, right?
Talk more about the company. Maybe I'll find the annual report. We can see who did the audit.
Sure. They had, keep in mind, I read it in the summer, so it's been about 6 months or something like that.
Okay.
The way they do their cybersecurity is they're trying to use AI, of course, like everybody, but they're actually the biggest company right now in cybersecurity. And they have the system essentially talks to each other and keeps like a
a base of different hacks or whatever. So essentially, if somebody in the system gets hacked and their cybersecurity is breached, it records what went wrong and then shares that with everybody else. So essentially, the longer they exist for and the more hacks they get but manage to overcome, the stronger it becomes over time, right? Because unlike other ones where in order to sort of compartmentalize, it doesn't talk to each other, this one does, right? So it slowly grows in difficulty the longer it goes, you know? And they didn't really do much. I can't remember exactly, but I'm pretty sure they didn't do, well, you know how it goes with security, there's different like levels of it. So there's like online security and then there's physical security and stuff like that.
Yeah, like
they
compliance.
Didn't really get involved with the physical side that much from what I remember, but I'm forgetting a lot because I read it a long time ago.
When you say physical, so like you're talking about
like key cards and stuff like that.
Key cards? Oh yeah, compliance.
Yeah, exactly.
Like internal systems of control.
Yeah, but I would have to recheck that because, like.
Hey man, I don't blame you. It's 300 pages long.
Yeah, it's really long, which was another thing that I thought was kind of sketchy. Like.
What? No, that's fine.
I know, but like 100 of those pages were just about trying to get the CEO to have a higher pay. Like, it was crazy, man.
Okay, how's the company performing right now? Like, let me try and build a case for them. Maybe they're not performing well, and they want to justify to investors, like, you know, hey, I know we're not performing well, but here's our justification for raising the CEO's salary.
Well, here's what I think the main takeaway I got from it was that the cybersecurity industry is one that is rapidly changing right now. And I think that a company like this that's so focused on executive pay instead of maintaining competitive advantage is one that's not going to do well long term.
But what's your basis for saying that other than the
Emotional.
fact that... Okay, all right.
It's just like I was just reading it and it's just all of it was just about the CEO pay. It's like there are other things in the industry right now that are important to consider, right? As opposed to just that.
Here's the audit, but it doesn't tell me who's it from. Like usually it'll say if it's from KPMG, there'll be a watermark. Yeah, KPMG. Yeah. What country is this company in?
I think they're from the States.
Who the fuck? Who did this audit?
Yeah, they're from Silicon Valley. Let me look up who audited.
Very, very, interesting.
Baker Tilly LLC has audited the city of Palo Alto. Okay, not.
No, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Palo Alto.
Well, here's the basis for the opinion. Or what's the opinion on the financial statements? We have audited the accompanying consolidated balance sheet of Palo Alto Networks Incorporated, bracket, the company, close bracket, as of July 31st, 2024.
Oh, they audit themselves.
No, bro, this can't.
It's okay. The Google AI overview says Palo Alto Networks has an independent registered public accounting firm that audits the company's financial statements.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
The audit committee of the board of directors oversees the qualifications of the independent auditor.
No, bro. No, hold on. Teal.
Other auditors are Moore, Coulson, and Nessus.
Auditors are supposed to be independent. This violates the independence.
Well, Google AI is not always that accurate in my experience.
Palo Alto Networks is an independent registered accounting firm.
Wrong. We maybe are just not understanding this properly. Because what you're saying makes sense and is actually exactly what I was.
Maybe they just mean like it has an independent registered accounting firm that it's an independent firm that they have audit their stuff. Like it doesn't mean they own them.
Could be what it means. I don't know.
Yeah, because you're like that seems like it would be a problem.
Yeah.
Huh. Very strange, man.
But yeah, if you want, we can do
could buy the company.
Research into cybersecurity, and you pick one company, I pick one company, and then we both do research and then present it at like the next podcast or something like that.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. Because like, if I don't do something like that, there's no way I'm gonna do like a ton of research. You know what I mean? I need something driving me towards
okay.
some inciting thing.
Well, this is very strange. I don't know who the hell audited this. I hope they didn't audit themselves via some subsidiary because that's a huge conflict of interest.
Yeah.
I think, anyways.
I would
But
100%
the
agree.
the laws in California might be different than the laws here. I don't know. Like,
That's true, but even if the laws are different, that doesn't mean it's not ethically problematic.
oh yeah, true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like-
true. For
Like,
sure.
maybe it's compliant with the law, but it's still shady.
276 pages. The one that I had to read
It's
for Delson
long.
was like only 140.
Well, from what I've seen from Warren Buffett, at least, was talking about what you should expect from an annual report. It should only be like an inch thick, or less than an inch thick, in terms of the thickness of the book. If you get, I don't know if you've ever, I've ordered physical copies of annual reports before,
Okay.
like from TD and Berkshire Hathaway and whatever.
Yeah.
And they're only ever like 1.5 centimeters thick. Like they're not that big.
Yeah. Well,
But,
I'm
like,
sure they're big enough.
270 270 pages. I don't know how thick that would be, but it's significantly more than the one I got from TD and the ones I've gotten from Berkshire Hathaway.
Well, you know, in my audit, in my assurance class, we had to look at the annual report for Stellantis, which is basically Chrysler, Fiat, and some other company.
How big was it?
It was 470 something pages.
Wow, that's a lot.
So like they can get
It
pretty
might
big.
also just be, and this is something that I'm always trying to remind myself of,
Yeah.
is that different industries are going to have different standards. Right?
Okay, true.
So I would need to see the length of all of the annual reports from a variety of cybersecurity companies before really being able to say whether that seems like unusual or par for the course, right?
What do you think were the critical audit matters in this?
I don't know. I mean, I looked at it so long ago.
Do
I
they
just thought the
use-
way they did, I thought their services were interesting. Like their actual, what they're actually selling was interesting. It's just like I said, I've done it a long time ago. The integration of AI was something that I think all of these companies are trying to do right now. Like
Oh,
really,
yeah.
really aggressively. The cybersecurity ones, right? I think theirs was.
So wait,
I
how
think
are
theirs was
they-
called the Eagle system or something like that.
So the AI is basically just monitoring the network they have for security
I'm
risks.
pretty sure. Yeah, I'm pretty sure the AI was doing a lot of the communication parts. But like I said, I read it like a million years ago.
We're just talking mad shit about
Oh,
this
buddy, let's
company.
Let's continue.
It's
Just
my.
talk mad shit. Who's
Okay.
the CEO? Let's
Who's
find his
this?
name.
You Google it. You
specifically.
Google it. Let me tell you the key audit matters. Just wreck game all over. I'm sure he doesn't deserve,
Nikesh Arora.
and I'm sure he doesn't deserve whatever
Screw
pay.
that guy,
Yeah.
man.
Oh God. Yeah, and like, they spent like 300 pages talking about how he's getting paid. Why does he get paid like
Yeah,
that, man?
300 pages, more than the actual annual report.
Anyways, I can't find any critical audit matters right now, but they have them, and you can read the report. You can find it online if you're interested. What's the next thing? Is there any other stock stuff
Oh, my last note that I had here was
Okay.
the FBF podcast.
FBF? Oh,
So
Sam Bankman-Fried.
So supposedly, and not supposed, like actually,
Yeah,
Tucker Carlson just did a podcast with him from in jail.
crazy.
So, I guess SBF managed to get an illegal phone or something in jail and did a live podcast with Tucker Carlson, which I didn't watch the whole thing. I just saw, CoffeeZilla.
Yeah.
I saw him do he released a little video on his side channel, Voidzilla, I think it's called.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because in the thing, Tucker Carlson says, and you donated a lot of money to the Democrats, and they just abandoned you. They didn't even help you out.
Dude, this
And
is
he's
the
"Yeah."
1%, like.
It's crazy. And CoffeeZilla was like, yeah, what the hell is this world coming to? We're complaining that they weren't corrupt enough. And he's like, yeah, maybe I needed to give them more money, maybe.
That's so
It's
wild,
so
dude.
weird. And supposedly he's now in solitary confinement because he did a live podcast from in the jail, and
Oh.
you're not allowed to do that.
I thought they were letting him out on house arrest.
Nah, man, he's got like 100 years.
Yeah, but he's probably not going to serve all those, apparently. He gave
Even
a
if
lot
he
of money
gets-
to the Democrats, man.
He gave to the Republicans too. He
Yeah,
was-
so you think
he
he's going to
was,
serve his full sentence? No way. He gave a lot of money, man,
I think the problem around that is that he doesn't have any money anymore.
that we know of.
So yeah, that we know of. But
Yeah.
my point is that I don't know. Maybe this is my conspiracy theory brain thinking like, okay, why would you let him out or give him a pardon if he's not able to support you now, right?
I don't know.
And if people let him out, if Trump let him out, I think it would just like hurt his political base because SBF
you
kind of
say
messed up the
You
crypto
s-
sphere, like, and his supporters who are crypto supporters would know that SBF screwed up crypto sphere.
True.
Right?
I don't know how they'd react. You know
I
what
don't know
Dread
either.
Pirate Roberts?
Yeah.
He-
Well, he pardoned that
he
guy.
pardoned Dread
But
Pirate Roberts.
He wasn't a crypto guy.
I know. He only made the Silk Road.
Yeah,
baby
he
food.
only made the online drug.
Yeah. And then the less than 1% of fentanyl coming from Canada
Yeah.
is a huge issue, but we're gonna pardon my boy Dread Pirate Roberts. That's funny.
I don't know if there was fentanyl around when he was.
No.
when the Silk Road was around.
But like clearly, I don't think Donald Trump cares about
I
drugs
was
that
listening to Mac Miller recently, and one of his songs from like 2014, he talked about being addicted to fentanyl.
much. Damn.
Yeah, which is like a long time ago, man.
But that makes sense.
Yeah, that was. I looked it up because I was curious, like, when did it even like become a problem? It was around that time.
So like, I mean, yeah. I don't know what to say. Like fentanyl, crazy car fentanyl.
Bad.
You know, 2 grams of any drugs are decriminalized. I think in British Columbia.
Yeah, they're trying to. The problem I think that they're trying to solve with that was that you got a lot of people getting like really bad drug charges
Yeah.
when they themselves weren't necessarily hardcore criminals.
Yeah.
And so it forced them into a criminal lifestyle.
I'm not necessarily
Whereas it
against
wasn't
it. I'm just
necessarily-
bringing it up. Like.
Yeah, no, I didn't know whether you were against or for. I think it's interesting, like the reasoning behind it.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on it?
Well, I think like do you know why we have the war on drugs?
Why?
I think it's because Nixon, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I think
Because
something like
Nixon, I might be the wrong president. I'm not American. I don't know, but I think it was Nixon. Like in the '60s, he was president in the '60s. Right? That's when Watergate happened.
I think so. Yeah.
It's making sense to me. My head canon.
Yeah.
Yeah, then-
I got Canadian history. I didn't get.
Then he was
American history.
frozen, and he's on Futurama now. But
Oh, yeah,
anyways, no.
exactly.
Nixon wanted to arrest hippies and black people because they were like part of the counterculture protesting,
Oh yeah.
right?
Vietnam.
So that's why they started the war on drugs.
Interesting.
Like
How long did the war in Vietnam go for?
I don't think it went for very long.
But there was 2 presidents during the time of the war on drugs. I think, wasn't there?
You mean Vietnam?
Vietnam. Sorry.
There might have been more than 2. I mean, like, because there wasn't Kennedy the president during? No, I'm getting my
Let me
years
look it
mixed
up.
up. Hold
Who was
on.
president? Who was president?
I know Forrest Gump went to Vietnam, right? Then these Bubba Gump shrimp.
Yeah.
So who was president? Yeah, Forrest Gump met Nixon.
Oh yeah. Lyndon B. Johnson and Richard Nixon were the U.S. presidents during the Vietnam War.
There we go, man. Because when Forrest Gump was like the ping pong champion, he got to meet one of them.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so like we have this war on drugs and like clearly it's not working. I mean, because like,
It never worked. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the 60s was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And I think,
I think,
I
I
haven't-
think there's an argument to be made, a strong argument to be made that the war on drugs exacerbated the problem.
yeah, I think
'Cause it
that
pushed money into the hands of criminals.
true, but also the war on drugs is, and maybe related to what you're saying, is really like you can attack it from a supply and demand side, but if you're attacking it from a supply side, there's always going to be demand. So when you
Yeah.
have demand and then you attack supply such that it
It
moves,
just increases price.
yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
and then it becomes more lucrative. So
Yeah.
I think we need new solutions.
I think a problem with the war on drugs as well is that in order for a war on drugs like the one we've seen to be effective,
Yeah.
you need to be so strict to the point of unethical decision making, right?
Yeah, I
Because you have
suppose.
to make the consequences so unreasonably like bad for the criminals that even with the increased prices and stuff like that, it doesn't matter, right?
And even then, I don't think
And
that's
at
true
that point,
because
by the time that happens, like it just becomes unethical what you're doing. It becomes like, you know what I mean? You have to be locking up everybody.
like what's
and
it? The
just
Philippines.
executing.
If you're associated with drugs, is it in the Philippines? Right?
I don't know.
They have like a death penalty.
Well,
But
in
even-
China, don't they cut off people's hands for it?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Let me look it up.
But
Maybe
you can
that's just
still get
conspiracy
drugs in
stuff.
those countries, though.
Yeah.
So like, I think it was the Philippines, like back in a couple years ago. Philippines, drugs. Yeah, the Philippine drug war.
capital punishment for drug trafficking
In what country?
China.
Yeah, makes
The
sense.
I don't know where I got the cut off hands thing.
Yeah, it doesn't seem very Chinese to me.
Oh, you know what I was thinking of? I was thinking about the
Aladdin.
punishment for thieves.
Well, in Aladdin.
Not necessarily in our era.
Yeah.
In
Interesting.
Aladdin, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. But I'm pretty sure you can still get drugs in the Philippines. I mean, and they kill you. You know, they legit
They do execution by firing squad in China.
based.
This is crazy.
Okay. Wild.
Yeah. You can get crimes endangering public security gets you the death penalty.
What
So
is
arson,
that?
Flooding, manslaughter, bombing, spreading poisons,
Wait,
spreading hazardous substances.
Arson? Like if you light some shit on fire?
Because I guess if you got a bunch of buildings built really close together and you light,
They
something
kill
on
you for
fire,
that.
You can get you can get capital punishment. It says here, but that doesn't necessarily mean you will, right?
I see.
It's like 5 to 10. You know, you don't
Yeah.
necessarily get 10. Yeah, very strict.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't fuck around, I guess. Well, that's the war on drugs.
Yeah.
Don't sell drugs, don't light fires in China. You're
Don't
going to
do
be
drugs.
okay. Do you want to go back to the critical audit matter that was found in, what's this company called again?
Palo Alto.
What?
Palo Alto.
Palo Alto.
I think it's a place in California.
So this
They
is
just named their company after it as well.
interesting. The critical audit matter communicated below is a matter arising from the current period audit of the financial statements that was communicated or required to be communicated to the audit committee, and that one relates to, okay, well, what is it though? Oh, revenue recognition. So they don't even know when they're recognizing revenue, dude. As described in Note 1 of the consolidated financial statements, the company's contracts with customers sometimes contain multiple performance obligations which are accounted for separately if they are distinct. In such cases, the transaction price is then allocated to the distinct performance obligation on the relative standalone selling price basis. Interesting. So
what if we're going to do this investigating cybersecurity companies, what one do you want to take?
let's look.
Here's top 39 cybersecurity companies you need to know. Let's see what these ones are. Here's Palo Alto, Fortnite. There's Cisco, CrowdStrike. Are there any Canadian ones? Sorry, what were you saying?
Doesn't BlackBerry do a bunch of cybersecurity stuff?
That's exactly what I was thinking of. After their phone stopped working, they started doing more.
R.I.P. BlackBerry.
I also thought it was interesting. I saw a podcast clip with a Twitch streamer
Yeah.
where she was saying that because she's so famous and
What's her name?
Target,
Is it Pokimane?
yeah, I think she was talking about how she needs a personal cybersecurity team, right?
To protect her accounts?
To protect her account and just to not be doxxed, and you know what I mean? Just protect her from like any creepy people that maybe want to get after her because she's pretty.
But I don't know. I saw Asmongold react to that, and he's like, yeah, it's dramatic. Asmongold doesn't need a whole
But
team.
Asmongold's not a really beautiful woman.
All right. Yeah, he's only a marginally beautiful woman.
He's just a marginally beautiful woman, yeah.
Okay, true.
You know, so
Fair point.
There's maybe a bit of
maybe.
a difference in the experience there. I mean, you just look at the way girls are treated online in games versus guys.
I don't play a lot of online games, but I'm going to infer.
It's weird, bro.
Yeah,
It's
okay,
weird,
okay.
Right? It's really weird.
So what's the argument there? Like, if
So
you're a beautiful
there's
woman,
no argument I'm making. The thought process I was thinking was that if you're not even a Twitch streamer, if you're just a famous person or a super rich person, paying to have a personal cybersecurity team might be probably would definitely be worth it if you've got enough money, because the cost to do that would be way less than the cost of losing a significant portion of assets or just like particular assets.
True.
Right? So what companies are doing that?
Okay, fair enough.
I don't know what companies do that necessarily.
I'm looking on TradingView. I'm on the stock heat map, but they don't have cybersecurity as. Unfortunately, they don't have cybersecurity as an industry.
Maybe I'll just go on. Personal cybersecurity teams can be in-house or external and can include a variety of roles to protect and serve. Let me just go on ChatGPT and ask it.
Yeah, we'll get the AI to do all our work. Soon
Money.
it'll do all our work
For
anyways.
sure. I was thinking ChatGPT is probably a really good way to do all of your work.
Kind of, yeah.
For investing research, if it was really good, because you need. I think a part of the thing that makes investing hard is it takes a long time to gather all the data and all the research.
Oh yeah,
Right?
that's right.
Because you don't necessarily need the AI to do the final analysis for you. You just need it all centralized, right?
Yeah.
In a way that you understand. Because they have things that do that for you, but they are sometimes really complex and not really that.
I think with the issue of relying on ChatGPT to do that for you is you're not understanding the underlying concepts. But I think as an aggregator of information, like it's good. It's great.
Yeah,
Like you should always understand what you're reading for yourself.
for sure.
There's also some other, because I'm doing personal financial
but it would-
management.
So I'm going to push back a little bit on that.
Okay.
Because what kind of understanding is important for an investor? Right?
What the fuck? like if I
Because
say
the understanding a operations expert has is much different from the understanding a sales expert has.
okay,
right?
let me like
And
if,
that's both going to be very different from the understanding an investor needs.
okay. So I'm saying what I'm saying is this. Like you're saying you can get ChatGPT to analyze a stock for you or a company.
No. I'm saying that you would maybe want. It would be useful to have AI centralize information for you and look for information for you in order to analyze it yourself.
Information such as the price to earnings ratio.
Quantitative things, qualitative things, like for example, competitive advantage. Right?
Okay.
You can go through the annual report and look at what they say the competitive advantage is and all this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Or you can maybe just go to ChatGPT and say, hey, this company, what's the competitive advantage it has?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know how accurate an AI would be at finding that. It might just give you a very generic response,
Yeah.
right? In fact, the reason I'm thinking about that is because I put it in the other day, yesterday, because I was curious to see what it would give me. And it gave me a very generic response, but I had asked it for the competitive advantages of the top 6 banks in Canada.
Yeah.
Right, like the big whatever. And I mean, all the responses were fairly generic. They talked about the sizes of the banks, the different services they gave, and sort of things like that. But like, that sort of gives you an easy start in order to see whether you want to look into the company more or not.
That's fair. All I was saying is with respect to some qualitative ratios such as price to earnings ratio,
Yep.
like when you get that information, you shouldn't just take it at face value. You should understand what it implies about the
for
company.
sure, for
That's
sure.
all I was saying.
Yeah.
Other good sources.
I think that part you're talking about is like one of the harder parts, one of the hardest.
True.
Maybe it's just because you're an accounting student and I'm just a regular BBA.
You can go on Value Line. Like in my personal financial management class, these are websites that give you information related to financial instruments. I haven't actually looked at any of them. I just bookmarked them to bring them up. I think some of them you need to pay for them, but you may have interest in looking at these at some point. So there's a Value Line. This is like a paid service.
Yep.
It's basically like an aggregator of information of how the markets are doing, and I think they also go in depth on certain companies.
Yeah.
So you have to consider how much that costs. They have like a free trial. Might be something worth looking into for you. They also have Fund Library, and I'm not sure how the point of this is. Try Fund Library Premium for free, 30-day free trial. I think it's just it's like a news. Canada's Investment Resource Center. They have like articles. This could be you might want to look at these. Market month fund news and updates, for example. Is this free? It is. And you have a whole analysis. It's not even just about stocks. It's also about, like, they talk about a lot of things, like the dividends markets. So that's something to look at.
What was on your list there?
I have the tariffs are paused until April 2nd, I think.
Yeah. He didn't want April Fool's Day.
Yeah. So I think that, it's hard to understand what the hell's going on. I don't think all the tariffs are paused, though. Just like
the UMSCA or whatever.
Yeah.
Only
So
those
stuff
ones.
that complies with USMCA isn't getting tariffed as of right now.
Yeah.
I don't know what makes a company or a product something that would fall under USMCA. I don't know
So
anything.
there
about
are
it,
like
to be honest.
conditions that were negotiated by Donald Trump that he then called the worst trade deal.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
But anyways, like so there are certain industries that
Oh,
have
it's
certain
the one
regulations.
that replaced NATO.
NAFTA, dumbass.
NAFTA, sorry.
Sorry.
Fuck you.
NATO.
Not NATO. NAFTA.
Who the fuck needs Article 5? We have USMCA. Okay, sorry. What was I saying? They have to file paperwork. So some companies just don't file the paperwork because it's a pain in the ass. So they're technically not compliant with USMCA. You okay, dude?
Yeah. Roll the 8 ball. See
Wait,
if
what
I'll
are we
live.
supposed to ask it if you're gonna live?
Yeah.
It is certain. You will
Oh,
live.
let's
Ryan.
go.
Let's go. Yeah.
All right, nice.
So for the goods compliant with NATO,
Okay.
there's not a tariff on them as of right now. And then we have to see what happens April 2nd.
Yeah.
And then we still have our counter tariffs.
We didn't pause any of ours, did we? Or did we only pause?
I think we had 2 waves of tariffs. We had the baby wave, which is like, I think, how many billion? In total, we're doing like 138 or something
The first one
billion.
was like 30, wasn't it?
Yeah, so the first one was like 30 bill, and then we're doing a next 100 bill. So we were going to do that sooner, but we paused the second wave until April 2nd.
Oh, okay.
But the first wave, we didn't pause it or anything.
yeah.
So
Doug Ford has been going off like.
because he was elected to do that, like it was part of his election campaign. Yeah.
He's been going crazy. He's
Yeah. Yeah, he's going wild. I've seen him on all the news networks.
Yeah.
Like, we love you guys, but
We love you guys, but screw you. We're taking your electricity.
we love you guys, but we're not fucking around.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, that's my premium.
Yeah.
But they're all kind of going hard.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know.
for sure they are.
Yeah.
If they don't, I mean, come on.
I think like BC, Quebec, they're also talking about export tariffs on electricity. Alberta doesn't want to talk about export tariffs on oil and gas, which I think is fair.
Yeah, I mean, that's their entire industry, essentially.
Yeah, but also, like, I think that it would be bad to put, like, after all this, if we could still trade with the United States, it would be lit.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
if we
I'll agree with
if
that.
we fuck up too much, then, like, how are we a
Yeah.
reliable trade partner? So
You
I
push
think,
too much, yeah.
yeah, so I think the
agree.
fact that the oil industry is like, we don't really want that, it gives us strength and legitimacy moving forward.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, those are the 3 main provinces talking about export tariffs on electricity, from what I understand: British Columbia, Quebec, and Ontario.
We should tariff all their maple syrup. We get a lot of maple syrup from Vermont.
Yeah. I mean, if we put tariffs on them, it's shit. Like, we're paying the price
No, I
for
know.
that.
Yeah.
So, not ideal. I would rather not put tariffs.
Yeah, just bring everybody down all at
Yeah,
once.
just fuck it, whatever. There's that one meme that I love, like the Trailer Park Boys.
Yeah.
Let's say Ricky's like it's like what's his name? Premier Ford right now, and it's Ricky like, I'm gonna go down there and fucking show him what it is. Show him fuck all their shit up. Show them who's in charge. When he's talking about cutting electricity, dude, I think that's happening tomorrow.
The electricity cutting?
I don't think cutting's the right word, because Ford
Unplugging?
is like he's moved away from
Limiting?
that.
Yeah.
But I think we're putting export tariffs Dumani like tomorrow.
Yeah, how is that going to affect us? I
Well, it's an
understand,
export
I understand,
tariff,
well,
so-
that's what I was about to say. I understand import tariffs, but export tariffs, how would that affect us?
It won't
Would it
affect us
just affect the
directly.
companies? Because they'd be making less money, maybe.
No.
No, because they would just up the price.
In the short term, it won't affect us at all.
Yeah.
In the long term, I suppose that America would want to move away from purchasing electricity from us
Yeah.
if we have export tariffs, so then people lose jobs and stuff.
Yeah.
But in the short term, it doesn't matter at all to us, to me.
Unless
they retaliate.
What's the population growth in the U.S.?
So like U.S. is pretty big. You mean all over?
Well, I'm thinking like, just in general, like, if they did try to move away from buying electricity from us, how much, like, how difficult would that be for them to do, especially with a population that's growing, if it is growing? I don't know how quickly it's
I'm
growing.
completely ignorant, but I imagine with all the infrastructure we currently have set up to move energy from here to there, they have to build out their own infrastructure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know.
0.5% annual change? What does that represent?
What the fuck? I don't know.
Is that a declining birth rate?
Dude, no, this is population growth. What the fuck happened to Canada? Damn, we vibing. Oh, this was COVID.
Oh, yeah.
Holy moly. Damn, yeah, USA is not doing too well with population growth, but I guess, you know, they
That's
don't need
kind of what
people.
happens with countries that
Dude,
are first world and they're like really capitalistic.
yeah.
From my understanding.
I mean, you can't grow
'Cause
forever.
well, I think it's not only that; it's that the focus is more on professional achievements, and
Yeah.
so people wait longer to have kids. But once you've waited longer, you can't have as many, right?
True. Also, like, I think life for a lot of Americans, like just for a lot of Canadians, is kind of unaffordable.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like, you know,
Yeah.
not everybody. Like, I know, like, if you live in the Midwest, which is, you know, probably would be cool to live there, I guess, but, like, I'm saying life
I
is
know
unaffordable.
nothing- yeah, I know nothing about the Midwest.
They seem friendly.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Did you see? There's you know that UFC fighter Cheeto Vera.
No, I don't know anybody.
So-
Yeah, no fucking
There's a
idea.
video that came out yesterday.
Yeah,
So he was working on his car in his driveway,
yeah.
and a guy came up with a machete, tried to rob him. And
Respect.
he walked over to his side window and pulls a shotgun out and just cocks it, and the guy like turns and sprints away like crazy.
Interesting.
It's kind of crazy video.
Did
But yeah,
you
I was
shoot
only
him?
thinking because the UFC was on yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't watch it, but supposedly the main event or the main fight was kind of boring, and yeah, that's all I know about
Who
it.
was it with?
Alex Pereira versus I don't know what his name is, and then Justin Gaethje was fighting somebody. And,
I think I saw people break their TVs over this fight on Instagram Reels.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. I think so.
That's kind of crazy.
UFC fight yesterday. I thought you were in the UFC. Why didn't you watch, man?
Because we went to the bar
Oh,
to do
okay.
the board game thing.
Fair.
I'd forgotten that there was a UFC fight until like the day before, right? But we'd already planned to go out, so. It kind of sucks. None of the bars around here play it.
Play
UFC.
whatever. I don't know. Oh, this guy. Ankalaev.
Ankalaev.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw people fucking angry about this.
Yeah. Supposedly he just like hugged him the whole time.
That's
Which
nice.
is kind of what you have to do against Pereira because he's so ridiculously strong.
Oh, this guy has a name and a half. I mean, I'm not.
Magomed Ankalaev.
Is a Russian professional mixed martial artist.
Yeah. Where's he from? He's from like he's from one of those like Middle Eastern.
No, bro. It says he's fucking Russian.
Not Middle Eastern. The Russian places that are.
He's
Muslim.
from Dagestan, brother.
Yeah, the Russian places that,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
are Muslim. Dagestan, There's
Oh,
a
dude,
couple
I'm
of ones
so-
way
yeah,
up there.
Yeah, what's
like,
it called?
Cities and towns up there in the mountains where they're Muslim and they're like just killers in the UFC.
I mean, it's very interesting. I'm very ignorant of it, but I know that these places were incorporated following the fall of the USSR, the United Socialist Soviet Republic.
Is that what it stands for?
That's what it stands for, yeah. And they're they want independence. I mean, I don't know if
Really?
everybody does. I think so. I think they have their own culture. I think if you asked like
I
someone,
heard that during the
the Caucasus Mountains, brother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I heard that during the beginning of the Ukrainian war, Putin just sent like trucks through all those areas and just
Yeah.
started grabbing people.
I thought that they got a lot, and again, I'm completely ignorant, but I thought they got a lot of people from. There's a country over here, or maybe it's not a country. It's technically part of Russia, probably. Wasn't it Georgia?
Kazakhstan? Georgia, I don't know.
Right?
I'm not that great with Russian history.
Is Georgia an independent country?
In fact,
Oh,
I don't
I'm
know
so
any
ignorant.
Russian history.
There was like some bullshit going on with Russia and Georgia at one point, no?
I don't know. That's actually something I've been meaning to correct. My knowledge of history
Of
is
Russian
weak.
history?
Just history in general.
What do you want to learn, brother?
Everything.
Okay.
But I
Have you
don't want to
seen-
have to study it. Just upload it into my brain. Neuralink it.
There's a lot of YouTube channels. The
Yeah.
short-lived.
I like watching documentaries, like World War II documentaries and stuff like that. I find them easier to digest than reading books about history. You know what I mean?
Georgia has again become the area of conflict. I don't know, dude. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or no, wait. I might be thinking of the Chechens.
Is it going to help us get money?
Is it gonna? I don't think
Get
so.
money through the Get Money podcast?
Sorry, man. I guess. Well, fuck you, dude. I guess. Hold on, wait. We can ask. Is Russian history going to help us get money? We'll ask the
See,
magic
we'll
8
see,
ball.
yeah.
Without a doubt.
Oh, let's go. We should learn this.
Yeah, exactly, dude. The United Socialist,
Get
Soviet.
ChatGPT to make a synopsis.
What were we even talking about? They paused tariffs, and then after that, we
I don't
started
know,
talking
I was interested in this.
in Russian. In the Russian thing,
I don't know if it will make interesting conversation for the podcast for us, but
we got carried away. I don't know where
We
my
did.
train of thought was.
I don't know where mine was either.
I interrupted you, I think. And
Did we
all
cover
got
everything we had to
distracted.
say about the tariffs?
Everybody's
Oh,
screwed. I
listen,
think is
brother.
The main,
Yeah,
is
yeah.
The main takeaway.
This is what I wanted to bring up,
yeah.
dude. What's the Google on your end? What's the GDP of BRICS?
Of what?
BRICS. And I'll Google the GDP of the G7.
GDP of BRICS versus G7. The BRICS countries have a larger share of the world's GDP than G7 countries.
That's not
This is
good,
due
brother.
in part to the BRICS countries' growing population and economic influence. In 2024, the BRICS countries accounted for 35% of the world's GDP compared to 30% for the G7.
Yeah, brother. So that's not exactly good. I mean, it's not good
But
for
the
us.
US, got the hiccups. The US is 26.9 trillion, and China is 19.4 trillion. And then the next biggest for the BRICS is India at 3.7 trillion, and the next biggest for the G7 is Japan at 4.4 trillion.
Yeah, but from my limited understanding, the GDP of these G7 countries is Italy's GDP is not doing that great.
Wait, that doesn't make sense.
What doesn't make
This-
sense, Ryan?
So that would mean that the G7 GDP is bigger. My AI overview is maybe wrong here.
But what's the trajectory? Is BRICS GDP not exploding primarily due to China and I guess India? I don't think Russia's doing that well.
Well, Saudi Arabia is part of the BRICS, is it? Or I'm forgetting what countries.
South
Brazil,
Africa.
Russia, India, the C is
China.
China, and the
South
S
Africa.
is South Africa? I thought it
Yes.
was Saudi Arabia.
No, brother.
Okay.
I don't think so.
Well, let's just look it up.
I'm willing
You're
to bet you
probably
my
right.
kidneys.
Yeah, you're probably right, but
What the fuck? Egypt is in
South
BRICS?
Africa, Egypt, Ethiopia. Oh, because they've expanded to be more than just Egypt, Ethiopia, Indonesia, Iran, and then United Arab Emirates.
Interesting. So we should buy stocks and we should, invest in
Well,
these.
BRICS
countries.
represents around 5 times the population of the G7 nations.
That makes sense. I can see that.
Why?
What do you
Well,
mean
I guess
why?
with China and India.
Yeah, China and India, it's probably.
Yeah. Just China and India would be bigger probably.
Yeah.
Big populations. What's the population of China now?
1.2 billion.
1.4.
Ooh.
Wow.
What's India?
India.
1.2 billion.
1.43. India's bigger than China now.
Lit.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'd never really looked this up before. That's a lot of people, man.
It's a few.
It's just a couple.
Yeah, I mean, it's at least 30 people.
Yeah, at least 30, yeah.
Is that the population of Indians living just in India? That doesn't include the diaspora or anything.
I think it would be. I don't know. I closed the tab.
There was just the population of India, it said, so I don't know.
Crazy.
A lot of people. I wonder how accurate their what's it called?
Census?
How accurate their census is in India.
I'm not sure.
Because there's a lot of people living really closely together in the cities, and then outside of the cities, I imagine that wouldn't necessarily be the case. You just break your bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I did.
Nice.
The point I was trying to bring up, though, is that, That's not good for the G7 nations, probably, like, overall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people living closely together isn't really a good argument for a census not being accurate.
Well, I mean, there are also, like, I don't, like, who knows about the
I don't know
I
how they do
understood,
it.
like, I
Yeah,
also don't know how
understand.
accurate the censuses are.
I'm pretty sure the Canadian and the US ones are really accurate from my understanding, but India has a different structure than ours, a different relationship with corruption.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Sure, I mean, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I'm not an expert on fucking how accurate
Yeah,
censuses
yeah.
are. But yeah, and there's also like remote places too, like where there could be huge populations relative to us in remote areas, right? Like who tells those censuses? Yeah. How are the censuses done? Like what's the? They don't have like 100% literacy.
I don't think any country would have 100% literacy.
Well, I mean, I'm saying like some countries have close to 100% literacy, but what's the literacy rate in India?
I don't know.
I don't think
Do you think
74%. So like, what happens to the people who are not literate? Like, are they doing the census?
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. 76%. What's that? Well,
I'm gonna look up just a list of literacy rates.
Well, okay.
I'm curious now, just because I read so much, so it's kind of interesting for me.
65.46% of females in India are literate. 82.14% of males in India are
why
literate.
did these say 100%? So it says Ukraine, Uzbekistan, North Korea. Why would North Korea have a 100% literacy rate?
Dude, is this like a
World Population Review. Yeah, I don't know.
is this a credible
I don't
source
know.
of
Yeah, I don't
information?
know. How would you even know if North Korea had a 100% literacy rate? Yeah, I'm gonna maybe look somewhere else.
Maybe United Nations has something.
UNESCO.
Or what about our world in data?
Let's look at UNESCO.
What is UNESCO? UN?
I don't know. I just know I recognize the name.
Okay.
So
It's a household name.
household name.
Yeah.
This doesn't give me anything.
Well, either way, it represents like, growing influence of the BRICS countries and, somewhat of a shrinking influence in the G7 countries, which isn't great.
Yeah.
I don't know really what the solution is. What do you think about like semi-state controlled capitalism?
What do you mean? Like
I don't know
like
exactly what I
socialism?
mean.
Like socialism?
Is that what socialism is?
Isn't socialism just where the state takes a bigger, more active play in business in terms of regulation?
I don't think so because I don't
and
think.
support of the population.
Yeah,
Let's just
I know
look
this.
up socialism.
Okay, for sure, brother. Because I know we have socialized healthcare, but like.
Socialism is an economic and political philosophy encompassing diverse economic and social systems characterized by social ownership of the means of production as opposed to private ownership.
Okay.
It describes the economic, political, and social theories and movements associated with the implementation of such systems.
I don't know if it's socialism then, but like, in China, for example, the government itself has a huge control, like a huge amount of share in terms of their individual corporations. Like, what do you think about that? Is there a way we can do that in a democracy?
I think the problem that we have with capitalism and why this is something we even need to consider is because nobody really, I think when capitalism was first implemented
By my
the
boy
modern
Adam
age-
Smith.
in the modern age, the idea that a company could get as big as it can get now just
Yeah.
didn't exist.
Okay.
Right? And so now I may be just talking about nonsense here. I'm sure the many millions of listeners will be able to argue against
The
it.
trillions
Yeah,
of
the
listeners.
trillions of listeners.
The aliens. We're broadcasting this to the aliens.
But like the idea that a company could get so big, I don't think existed. And the understanding of what kind of power a company that size has and is capable of wielding unchecked is also something that they didn't understand. Right? So I think personally that what you need is a government that takes a more active hand in regulation and that does, I don't know what you can do, but make it so that companies that get to a certain size, they aren't so big that they monopolize everything.
Yeah,
right?
brother, that's not crazy.
Because
like,
individuals because there's one thing about companies having so much power, but there's another thing about individuals themselves having so much money and power because of their ownership of companies, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah.
Like, but that's not a crazy idea. Like, that's, I think, the foundation of Keynesian economics. And I think for a long time, at least even in the U.S., they know that they should break up monopolies. Because what was that guy's name? His father was a snake oil salesman. Come on, help me out. He helped build the education system, apparently. Help me, brother.
Adam Smith?
No, Rockefeller.
Oh, Rockefeller.
When did they break that up? Rockefeller. It was in like sometime after Red Dead Redemption 2. Like, it must have been like 1916. So I think like that's not a crazy idea, but it's like that's
the problem is, how do you do it ethically?
No way.
And also the idea, like, a lot of, why do you keep on doing that?
I don't know when I should talk and when you should talk. Here, you hold this and speak.
No, you can continue if you had a point you wanted to say, for sure.
Because I was saying something slightly different.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay.
Like, I'm not talking about Keynesian economics or if the government should interfere in markets. I think the Keynesian model, like Adam Smith was wrong about like laissez-faire capitalism, because markets take time to adjust. I think the government has a role in breaking up monopolies.
Yeah.
And, I think counter-cyclical financial planning is good in order to like stabilize the business cycle. We've done this for fucking, even the USA, not even Canada, like the USA, Western countries have done this for hundreds of years.
Yep.
What I'm talking about is something different, because like, we see the rise of like look at Singapore. It's like I read a news article some time ago, like Singapore is the best run dictatorship in the world. And if you look at the GDP growth of Singapore, it's crazy. But the problem is my smooth brain, I like democracy,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Me too.
So I don't want to say, the best economic system is a system in which authoritarian states have power, because my smooth brain likes democracy.
It's interesting you should say that, because that was also the argument, I believe it was Plato made against democracy.
What did Plato say?
So he said that the problem he found with democracy was that you would have a lot of snake oil salesmen, the way you're talking about, that like politicians who would basically, he equated it to the candy man versus the medicine man.
Okay.
So the politician that sells you candy, it's really nice short term, but long term you're hurting yourself.
Sure.
Right? Whereas the medicine gives you a bitter medicine now, but long term it's healthy and it's good for you, right? And so his problem with democracy was that people who vote would, because they're not always going to be educated and informed, they're more likely to sway towards the candy man, and over time that would degrade the foundations of the country or the empire or whatever. And so that's why he was more for monarchies and stuff like that. I don't know what it was exactly he was
I think
for.
he was for
sure.
autocracy, no?
I don't know. I can't remember. I just remember that particular aspect of what he was saying, or at least and also Plato is, maybe it was in the book Plato, not necessarily the actual guy.
Plato.
But Plato, whatever. You know what I'm saying, bro?
Yeah, but
I thought that was very interesting, and it's similar to what you're saying, right?
I think it's a little different, but it's
in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I suppose. I don't think it's related, but I think it's a fair point. I think it's a fair criticism of like representative democracy or direct democracy, because democracy in ancient Greece was direct democracy. Like, we have what the fuck do we have here? We have a parliamentary system. So I think that negates some of the issues. Like, the parliamentary system of democracy is like, isn't it like one of the most stable?
Ours is much more robust than the U.S.
Robust?
Yeah, ours is better. It will work better long term than the U.S.'s system.
I mean, yeah.
Ours is more capable of adapting to a changing environment.
I'm not a political scientist, but I think that it's a more stable system because of like internal politics within parties.
It's less prone to extremism the same way as
I agree.
The U.S. political system is very prone to extremism.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
Which, depending on your outlook, may be good or bad.
Yeah, but also I use very prone to extremism, but that's compared to what, right? Because they're very prone to extremism compared to us, maybe, but not necessarily compared to Russia or China, right?
Fair. Okay, good. But that's not even what I was talking about, though.
Okay, I don't understand what you're talking about then.
Okay. Like, if you look at, what's another country? Even Korea, actually. I think South Korea also does this.
Yeah.
But let's take China again. Okay. China's an authoritarian state.
Yeah.
They don't have a democracy.
Yeah.
I like democracy.
Yeah.
But if you look at China and you look at Singapore and maybe some other countries, you see that like authoritarian capitalism is like, it can be a very efficient, like in terms of GDP growth, economic system. That's bad for someone like me who likes democracy, because if that's a very efficient economic system, then we're going to face influence from that.
Yeah.
So I'm saying, is there something we can learn from how these governments operate, like how these economies, operate, that we can take to us and say, let's keep democracy, let's learn some things from this. And it's only something I've begun to think about, and I don't really have an answer. But if you look at China, for instance, the government itself has a lot of control, or they hold a lot of share or stake in a lot of their companies. So if the companies themselves are doing something that is against, like, we'll say the people, like the national interest, we'll say, actually is a better thing, not necessarily the people, the government can step in and say, hey man, like, what the fuck? You need to do this, it's best for our interests. So this in a way balances, like, one of the capitalism. I'm a capitalist. Like, I think it's the most efficient way to organize resources, right? I'm not a communist. But sometimes you have a trade-off of, like, it focuses on the short term versus the long term, which is why we have government intervention, for example, regulation for, like, logging, for example. But if you have government ownership, partial ownership of major corporations, there may be a way to balance short-term game with long-term outlook.
I think the problem with that is the problem that we see with China, right? Is that where's the checks and balances for the government?
Yeah, they don't need it because it's an authoritarian country.
I know, but I'm saying, how do you implement that or something similar to that here while maintaining your democracy and being able to maintain checks and balances for the government?
I'm not sure, but I think if we learn enough about history, there's probably a way, because Canada also has crown corporations.
Well, the problem, I think, really, like, you only need the government to have ownership of these companies if the companies are too big, right?
Yeah,
if the company maintain a medium size, then the government doesn't need to have a part to play into it, because those companies don't have enough wealth and enough power in order to make them a danger to the system itself and the national interest.
Yeah.
Right? And so I think that goes right back to what we were talking about earlier with regulation, right? The government needs regulation in order to make sure that they don't need to have an ownership with the companies, because they won't become a threat anyways.
Well, let's look at the issue that Donald Trump's trying to fix in the USA. I don't know exactly what issue he's trying to fix, but I think one of the things he's trying to fix, I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say that he has a plan. And he doesn't like that, like, U.S. multinationals, what's it called, offshore labor.
Yeah.
So, like, how would you fix that with regulation? If you could go back in time.
I think the problem is that you're thinking about it as a problem. And I don't think it's a problem.
You don't think offshoring labor is a potential problem?
I don't think it's a problem so long as you're able to create work in other areas, right? Because I think the argument that's always made is that with first world countries, it's unskilled labor that ends up getting offshored, and then it's the highly skilled labor that the people do, right? So if you increase the education standards for the citizens, then they'll be able to get more complex jobs that you're not able to send elsewhere, right?
I think that's a really optimistic outlook, and I don't think it's a good, I don't know, like, so, like, look, let's say we had a factory and we employ 100 people to build paper clips.
Yeah.
Then we offshore all of that to India, and now 100 Indian people build paper clips. Now there's 100 people unemployed, and you may say, well, they can move up and become some.
Well, no. I know what you're saying, but it's unrealistic to expect them to get the education,
because you
right?
only need how many managers do you really need?
What I was saying is that would be something that takes a very long time. It's like you're planning for a couple of generations in the future, right? Because I don't think, exactly like you're saying, not everybody's capable of getting the education that late in life necessarily. Like, they got bills to pay and stuff like that.
That's not even. I'm also saying it's just from a numbers perspective, it doesn't make sense, because you've moved 100 jobs. Now there's 100 people unemployed, and sure, those production facilities in India need to be managed, but you don't need 100 managers.
Yeah.
So like you may need one manager, two managers. What happens to the 98 other people?
Yeah.
So like
Well,
how can regulation prevent that? Or is that a problem?
I think that
I think it's a problem.
I think it's definitely something that occurs. I just don't think it's happening at large enough scale for it to be the main issue. Right?
So okay, but
Because like if you look at like the truckers, right?
Yeah.
The argument was always, oh, once they have self-driving cars, all these truckers are going to be out of work. Right? And that's not offshoring labor, but you're still having the same issue where this industry has changed.
yeah.
Right? But historically, when industries change, new jobs are created that didn't even exist previously. The paperclip example you're giving is an example where that's not the case, I don't think.
Okay.
However, with technology improving, there's going to be areas where you need employees where they didn't necessarily even consider that you would need an employee previously, right?
Okay.
It's like with the car industry.
Yeah.
When they went from horse and buggy to car, they thought, oh, all these people who drive horse and buggies are going to be out of work. But then you have mechanics who need to work on cars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the loss of jobs will outpace the gain of jobs so severely as to be this big issue that you'll have to deal with long term.
Yeah, okay, fair. I mean,
But
that's
I am
that's
also optimistic on it, like you were saying. for
Yeah,
sure.
that is the standard outlook, like why free trade is good. So
Okay.
yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm gonna say I'm not an expert enough to have an opinion,
Yes,
but
same.
yeah, but okay. So, do we have any thoughts on semi-state controlled capitalism though,
Semi-state controlled capitalism, I think it
or
only,
like can you do the same thing with regulation? Like for example,
I just don't have a deep enough knowledge of it. You know what I mean?
fair.
I mean, my opinions are all just based off of emotional and the bare
Like any
minimum
wise
stuff.
investor.
Yeah,
Hell
like
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's go. But you know what I mean, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'm not a professional politician or anything, so everything I'm saying is just going to be based off of interviews I've heard with other politicians and other philosophers and stuff like that.
All right.
Right.
Apparently, it's a good time to buy.
It's
oil.
always easy to find the mistakes and the problems. It's so hard to find the solution.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know,
You know what I
dude.
mean?
Democracy's lame, anyways.
Yeah,
Fuck
who
it.
needs it?
Who needs democracy?
Just let AI take
Yeah.
control.
No, yeah, fuck it.
Yeah.
Well, that's all that I had on my thing. Apparently, it's a good time to buy oil. I heard some people on Bloomberg.
Really?
Yeah,
Why?
so I'll leave the listeners with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Leave them with that. Get money.
Buy oil.
This has been the Get Money podcast with Nick and Ryan.
Okay.
We're gonna get some money.
Yeah, we're here for sure. You know, like, hey, if in a bank account you lose over 9 years, you lose half your money to inflation. So in
Yeah,
order to outcompete the market, the only way I found is
I've-
with cryptocurrency.
I've seen that.
In
meme,
1
bro.
year, I've already lost half my money. Yeah. Okay.
Hey, this has been a dip in crypto, bro. We
Yeah,
should
no,
buy.
definitely buy the dip. Buy the dip, dude.
Hodl.
Total.
All right.
All right, well, happy Sunday, Lord's Day.
Sunday, the Lord's Day.
Take it easy.
None of us are religious.
Best of luck.